Morning, guys. Excuse me. Mark Fresh Protect Dog Training early in the morning. And my usual setup is we got Big Boy, obviously. With Big Boy is to get up and get some water in me and start getting my wake up routine going. Take him out for his potty break, which we've already done. And then cut up some hot dogs, warm them up in the microwave so they're nice and juicy and got some good smell to them. Not that he needs all that, right? But I'd rather give him a warm hot dog this early in the morning, as cold as it is out here, than not. And let them enjoy it and let them get into the hot dogs. Good. Now we started with the leaking part that was starting because I put my hands to my face. Good. And he starts getting excited because he doesn't want to wait, which is normal. He's 11 weeks old. Remember, we got to always come back to the fact that he's just a baby. Right? He's got a posture on the back right now really nicely. So I'm going to set up positive by scratching that ass in every time he's in the right position. That gives me my positive on one side because as he gets a little older, I'm going to start really asking him to come up. Keep in mind that I do this with all my dogs. Most all my dogs, no matter what dog that I'm working, has the ability to go from a relaxed position, laying on their side and the shoulder and the back, on the hip, to a what I call attention, right? To a nice crisp one, and I can just ask for it by saying couche correct, and they'll bring themselves up to that posture because I work on it so much because I want the dog to look good, good in that respect. So that's just one of the little things I do in my training. Just something I started when I was a kid, getting them there. I say couche correct or down correct or whatever. I usually kind of roll the correct, make it sound good. But in a general sense, I want a dog that looks good. And you'll see the dogs that I have, Joker, Buddy, they all have a lot of presence. And the reason for that is because my eye and my instincts go towards good looking dogs. Now, do I want a dog that's only good looking and doesn't have anything upstairs and in his character and his strengths? No, I want all of it. So I'm looking at that too when I'm picking a dog. But the thing that breeding gives me when I do what I do, it gives me the ability to pick what I want, what that fits my instinct for me, and that's what you're doing it for. Yep, there's a lot of money that goes into breeding. The bitch alone cost me $2,500. I've already tried to do 2 or 3 AIs with her, 2, and they both failed. I put out a lot of money and stud fee and things that happen in regards to that. So I've got a lot of money invested in just trying to get the bloodlines that I've got and the stock that I've got, and it's important to realize that. Nope. Kind of trying to convey to him the thought of negative punishment, right? Which is basically take away what he wants. And after a while, he'll figure it out. Good. There you go. But right now, his mind is so young and float like a butterfly that some of these concepts are going to have to wait. Good. So he's doing a lot better here. So I can get down here. Now, the other day, I took him out for the first time and I put him on the line agitation. I kind of showed you how I start my puppies with that sack agitation and flipping the sack in a nice half circle. Everything comes off that half circle in the bite work. So what I'm out to do is develop a dog that has strength. I want nothing but strength. So there's some controversy going on the internet right now. And since I met a young lady that is into that subject, she posted on it where Justin Rigney came out with a post where there was a bunch of kids, guys in suits, kids, who knows how old they were, with a dog that was sent in to do a bite, and they were all around the corner, and they came at the dog strong with a bunch of bottles in there. And it's one new friend that I've got online. It's all into strong dogs, and she's right away being a little upset at Justin going after that subject. But I disagree with her in the fact I think there's pro and cons on both sides of that equation. I agree with Justin that if we keep that kind of behavior up and the public sees things like that, they can't handle what we're doing. And in that regards, that is going to end up affecting our industry, and they'll come after us, and then pretty soon bite sports gets affected, all of it gets affected, right? So it's important that we always have that perspective that what the public perceives is important. You can't just forget that, right? So it's a fine line. We're always trying to skirt that line. So this other young lady, I read her post, and she made some negative comments about Justin, and I can see her point. She's into hard dogs. She wants a dog that has a lot of strength and moxie and everything. But I kind of think about the aspect of social, our interaction with the human side, right? Remember what I'm always talking about, that I don't get into sport. I don't do competition and all that. I've been around all this stuff for years. I've always been sitting on the bench. I hang with everybody. I'm rubbing shoulders with all the decoys. I need them. They're what helped me build my product. So in that regards, it's important that that community is where I really reside. I don't reside in the community of purely positive, but the human factor that I'm always talking about is something that I have to deal with. I love to teach. I love the customers that learn and grow from me, and then they start learning. That's great. But I also understand that we're always going to be affected by the public's perception of what we're doing. So in that regard, I agree with Justin. They're going to hurt our industry. And when I see that kind of thing, I disagree with what they were doing because I always keep it in a training sense of mind. When you want to go out and do a trial and you have the perspective that you're testing the dog and all that, and he fails, and that's the training's fault and all that, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I might do something like that amongst my friends and my colleagues and things, but I'm not going to put it online and I'm not going to show the public that because I don't want them to see that. And I don't need to float my ego. And I've talked about this before, and this is just me, this is who I am, to get a trophy or to get a ribbon. I'm not out there to make myself feel good. I'm out there for the dog and to prove to myself my training. Right? I've got a good friend of mine, Lewis Williams, that owns Black Mass Training. We go back 30 years ago. And he's a personal protection dog trainer. And he goes out and competes in PSA, and he doesn't care about all that stuff either. He takes it on the chin and he usually gets, kind of beat up by the social sides of things. And his dogs aren't, he's not Oscar Mora. Let's put it that way. So bottom line, but me and him have a lot of affinity because he's been doing it for so many years. He understands it, and he's doing it because he wants to test his training. And that's what he's always telling me. So he's got me kind of thinking I might get into PSA, but I can never see myself going to a PSA 3. You know what I mean? My ego doesn't need that, and I don't need to put my dog through that kind of a stressor. You're never going to have that on the street. You're not going to have 5 guys coming at the dog bouncing at him in suits. And then the social aspects of things, the human side of things, Justin's right. They're out there floating their ego. They're feeling all powerful, and they've got a big old doughboy suit. You really want to take on a dog? Do it without a suit. Find out what happens, right? And there's pros and cons on both sides, And I'm out for the same thing. I want to build the biggest monster I possibly can. I want them to have the criteria that I'm trying to build. What is a personal protection dog, criteria-wise? A dog I can take any place with me. It's totally stable, friendly, and fine. I can greet him into people. He's good with people. And then there's the divergence of law enforcement saying the dog shouldn't. Why do they do that? The dog shouldn't greet into people because of the liability. Because some people don't know how to communicate with the dog, and then an accident happens and they get bit. So I get it, I get it. But in my perspective, where I live on the public side. I have to try to produce and want to produce a product for somebody that can experience the same things I do when I have these dogs. I've got dogs I can take any place with me, friendly and fine, but they'll eat you if I tell them to, okay? And that's just the way it is because that's how I build my dogs, right? I build for strength. I build for stability. I build for all that, right? And I deal with dogs that most people can't deal with. So he slouched over in the back, so I'm going to try to, good, right away the positive. Nope. Now he's going the other way. Now, at some point, you kind of give this up. He's in a hammock, so he's have a tendency to want to fall anyway. Let me get into some other stuff. So just as a Yack session, realize that I'm totally aware of what's going on, and I understand the one young lady's attitude about appreciating hard dogs, and she wants hard dogs and everything, but I would caution her to realize that a lot of what she's feeling is because she wants to be around her friends and maybe stroke her ego a little bit, be the big man on the block and all that. Get rid of that. Care about the dogs and forget about the bullshit, right? And realize that the general public, we're always going to have to deal with. Their perceptions are totally different than us. They're not dog people like us. I eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff, right? That guy down the street has no friggin' clue, and my job is to try to educate him and teach him. And they have perceptions and perceive the world in a totally different way, and they're affected by that. Fur Mom and Forever Home and all the bullshit that comes from the purely positive, right? So just keep it in mind. There's 2 sides to every fishbowl, and you've got to kind of balance it and understand everybody's perspective in that regards, right? So, all right, let's get off of that one. Good. You saw me going back to the bite work we did the other day on the line. I usually start my puppies out with a sack. Now, where is he at right now? He's about 11 weeks old, 12 weeks, coming up on 12 weeks old. You've got a little window of time when they get this little age where they get so spunky and spry, they're not afraid of anything, that you can imprint them towards what you're going to be doing. So it's the jute. It's that material of the sack, and it's spongy, and so it feels good for the puppy. I can build them, and I use sacks for older dogs too, don't get me wrong, but it allows me to set the bite to the back of the mouth and do all kinds of things with finesse, like I've talked about before. It's kind of like a safe cracker. I feel it in my hands and my fingers, whether that dog's bite's at, and it's nuanced. You don't see that when you see the videos. You don't realize how much feel I know. You notice I don't pick him up straight on with a sack without supporting his neck. I'll always support his head because I don't want him to have any negative, and I don't want him to get hurt. But he gets to feel the power of the game because I'm bouncing him all over the place, right? It's about giving confidence to the animal right now at his stage, right? So the next things we're going to want to do is we're going to want to move into nice, soft little tugs like this. This is actually a sleeve type of material that will give him an open mouth and get the item to be in the back of the mouth. Because again, we always want the bite to be seated as far back as we can, and to condition the dog to have a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling, and always want this. And that's all about how we build it with our timing. You see me when I do my bite work, I'm always going to the neck, and that's my cue that he's done the right thing. Good. Right away. If he doesn't have a forward bite, you won't see me doing that, right? Because he's not in the right position. I'll usually come out and stretch that sack out and let him get that rebite. And as soon as he digs in, right away, my timing is right to the back of the neck. So we're trying to develop bite. And and all my dogs, you get around a lot of the decoys that work my dogs, they're going to tell you, my dogs come in and they crunch bite, right? It's because of how I build the bite and how I get my decoys to do the work for me. So we create a bite that's just, boom, I want debilitating pain on that first strike. And I want them to have that power in that time period when they go in to hit the bad guy, that it's just nothing but debilitating pain. So we'll be talking later on down the line about strike zones, things like that, and how I've broken down over the years watching these different sports and what each one gives you that is viable for the criteria that I'm trying to build in my dogs. And I've taken slivers out of each one of the sports. Schutzen, you'll see me work my puppies like this. I'll imprint them, and then they go through a time period where